Matt, I'm going to start with you. How do you view the incident? Because we're just seeing all sorts of people debating regarding the contact between the two.
Yeah. So what I like to think I do is view stuff logically, and I think there's a lack of logic on social media when it comes to race fans viewing this specifically, whether it's Facebook, X. I don't really use Blue Sky enough to know, but for people saying like stupid stuff like Wallace intentionally did this and it's his fault because he wanted Hamlin to win, or because it's like, what the heck is that? Like, no, literally logic, your eyes. I got four right now. Right now, I don't have my contacts. I got two glasses and I got two sets of eyes. Your eyes and data. That's the best thing. If you don't trust your eyes, there's analytical data that prove that Larson slammed on the brakes. He overcomped for the fact that Reddick kept hitting the wall. And Bubba's obviously a little bit faster, only one lap down as opposed to 160 plus laps down. So people saying that Bubba would try to help Hamlin, Bubba would try to help Reddick. No, I don't think he would. And I think he'll be the first person to tell you that he wouldn't help one of those guys out. Because why would he? He's running in the 20s. So for me, that's how I look at it, is that your eyes and logic show what happened was not intentional. It was simply a racing incident that happened. It just so happens that the 23 team is the one involved, because if it was the other 36 or 37 drivers on the grid, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. I feel just because it happened between those two, obviously there's a history there. Obviously a Toyota won, the team owner of the 23 team, and the team that finished second was the 24, who happens to be teammates with the 5. And Bubba did one thing today, I'm going to leave it a point, that Larson has never done in his career, and that is finish 21st. That is a random fun fact. Larson has finished 1 through 40 except for 21st in his career. I think it was Peter Stroud I was talking to way back when about like the grid. It's so funny that Larson's never finished 21st. But that's how I want to end my rant-ish point, just about how the fans are, with a fun fact, because that's what I like to do.
I definitely align mostly with what Matthew had to say, but here's my piece of it. The 5 and 23 are like magnets, unfortunately. It seems like there is some supernatural force that keeps drawing those two together. And frankly, it is really annoying to see them continue to get brought back into these same conversations. And to Matthew's point, if it had been another of the 36 cars on the grid, we would not be having this discussion if Ricky Stenhouse did this. We would not be having this discussion if Ryan Preece did this. So there's that aspect of it all. I think the drivers' history with each other definitely lends to people talking a certain way about both drivers, which is unfortunate. But if you look at the situation for what it was, we have a car that's 163 laps off the pace, beat the front end of its car completely off. They had to take it off and beat it back out, and then they sent him back out there with about 100-ish laps to go so he could go out there and log laps and make 1 or 2 passes, assuming people fell out of the race. Bubba Wallace was still running at a competitive pace, and, obviously him being a lap down, it's not an ideal position for the 23 team, but it's the position they were in. And from what Auto Racing Analytics posted on Twitter of the data from Kyle Larson coming out of turn 2 of the previous lap, he didn't have any sort of a break coming out of the exit of turn 2, but you could also argue Tyler Reddick wasn't in the wall when that happened. But you could also argue that if you look at the screenshot taken from that same tweet by Auto Racing Analytics, you'll see that Tyler Reddick is like a quarter of the way down the straightaway in the wall. He isn't on the exit of turn 2 in the wall. So Kyle Larson braking as hard as he did with a car right on his bumper just doesn't make any logical sense. Like, I get that he didn't want to be involved in any further accident, but as I displayed earlier, you've already beaten your car to death. What's more damage going to do? Obviously, you don't want to ruin Reddick's race, but your race is already over. Why are you in the way? So, yeah, again, I think if Kyle Larson finds himself in this position again, and he is not often in this position, I don't expect him to replicate that mistake, but it's just another in a long line of Kyle Larson's total like mythological being in NASCAR. He is so cartoonishly talented. We saw that at Homestead 2 weeks ago. But he also, at times, makes some cartoonishly awful mistakes, like we saw today in both instances where he made headlines for himself and at Homestead in 2023 when he plowed into the pit barrels trying to gain even a half-tenth of an advantage over his competition. He pushes the edge at all times, even when he really shouldn't. And this was unfortunately a situation where Kyle Larson could have used a little bit more common sense and restraint, or just awareness of the moment and where he was and what he was racing around to have made a better decision. But again, he's kind of shown us that if he makes a dumb error on the track, he doesn't often replicate it.